Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about the science behind the gut-brain connection and how it affects our mood. So, if you're interested in that, stick around. I'm a mental physiotherapist, and I make mental health education videos to help you learn about your mental health and to help you on your mental health journey. Before we get into this video, I just want to mention that I have another channel called Mental Physio. It's an educational channel for mental health professionals. The link is provided below if you're interested in checking that out. And, as always, the references are at the end of the video. Okay, so let's jump into this. We know now that our gut contains trillions of bacteria, and these bacteria are necessary for us to live. In fact, the bacteria actually predate human beings, so we co-evolve with them. We rely on those bacteria for many things. And when they're not there or they're not working properly, we tend to get sick. Now, more recently, we've realized that those gut bacteria also produce neuroactive compounds that can influence our mood. Now, how do they do that? Well, the bacteria in the gut, through a process called fermentation, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, break down food particles. So these are particles that we can't digest, and they release neuroactive compounds. Now, these compounds can either be consumed by the cells that line the gut, or they can be transported across the blood-brain barrier and go directly to the brain. This means that the bacteria in our gut have direct communication with the central nervous system, and they can influence how we feel. So this has led researchers to hypothesize that poor gut health could be a factor in the development of mood disorders like anxiety and depression. So let's take a look at some of the research that supports this hypothesis. In 2019, a study was conducted looking at the differences in gut bacteria between children and adolescents with autism spectrum disorder and typically developing children and adolescents. And what they found was that there was a significant difference between the two groups. So, in other words, the bacteria in the guts of those with ASD were different from those without ASD. Now, they went on to look at the correlation between those differences and the severity of ASD symptoms. They found a significant correlation between symptom severity and the levels of certain bacteria. So this suggests that having a healthy microbiome may protect against ASD. And conversely, poor gut health may increase the likelihood of ASD symptoms. Another study in 2019 looked at the association between irritable bowel disease, so this includes Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, and psychiatric disorders. What they found was that people with IBD were significantly more likely to have mood disorders than the general population. Now, another study found that people with Parkinson's disease had altered gut bacteria compared to healthy individuals. And even early on in the disease, before the onset of motor symptoms, they found that there was already differences in the gut bacteria. Another study conducted in 2016 found that mice with Parkinson's disease had elevated levels of a protein called alpha-synuclein in their guts, and that this protein spread to the guts of healthy mice and caused them to develop symptoms of Parkinson's disease. So this suggests that the bacteria in our guts may play a role in the development of Parkinson's disease. So let's say that we accept that the health of our gut bacteria does influence our risk of developing mood disorders. The next question becomes, what does poor gut health actually look like? And the answer to that question turns out to be pretty complex because there's no single definition of what poor gut health looks like. In fact, researchers are still working to understand exactly what a healthy gut looks like. But there are some common factors that are associated with poor gut health, and that includes low levels of certain types of bacteria, high levels of other types of bacteria, low levels of microbial diversity, and leaky gut. As I mentioned earlier in this video, our gut bacteria are responsible for fermenting certain foods. One byproduct of this process is something called butyrate. Butyrate is an anti-inflammatory compound, and it helps to strengthen the tight junctions in our gut lining. When our gut bacteria aren't functioning properly, we don't get enough butyrate production, and this leads to inflammation in the gut and leaky gut. Leaky gut occurs when the tight junctions in the gut become too far apart. Normally, this is a bad thing because it allows things that shouldn't be in our bloodstream to enter our bloodstream. This triggers an immune response, and that immune response causes more inflammation, and that inflammation spreads throughout the body. Now, there are a number of things that can cause leaky gut, but one of them is eating processed foods. Processed foods lack fiber, and fiber is the preferred food of our gut bacteria. So, when we eat processed foods, our gut bacteria starve. Starved gut bacteria can't produce enough butyrate, and this leads to leaky gut and inflammation. And inflammation, as we know, is at the root of most chronic diseases, including mood disorders. So, let's summarize everything that we've talked about so far. Our gut bacteria produce neuroactive compounds that influence our mood. Poor gut health increases our risk of developing mood disorders, and poor gut health looks like low levels of certain bacteria, high levels of other types of bacteria, low microbial diversity, and leaky gut. Leaky gut occurs when the tight junctions in our gut lining are too far apart and it allows toxins to enter our bloodstream. This triggers an immune response and causes inflammation, and that inflammation spreads throughout the body, and it's at the root of most chronic diseases, including mood disorders. So the next question becomes, what do we do about this? How do we fix poor gut health? There are 4 things that we can do to improve gut health. Eat probiotic foods, eat prebiotic foods, consume fiber, and manage stress. Probiotic foods are foods that contain live bacteria that when consumed can increase the amount of good bacteria in our gut. These include things like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, and miso. Prebiotic foods contain fiber that acts as food for our gut bacteria. This includes things like onions, garlic, bananas, and asparagus. Consuming fiber is another way that we can improve gut health. Fiber is a type of carbohydrate that we can't digest. So when we eat fiber, it goes to our large intestine, where our gut bacteria ferment it, and this produces short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids are anti-inflammatory compounds that help to reduce inflammation in the body. Managing stress is also important for gut health because stress increases cortisol levels, and cortisol weakens our gut lining. This makes us more susceptible to leaky gut and gut inflammation. A lot of the research on the gut-brain connection focuses on how our gut influences our brain. But the connection works both ways. Our thoughts and feelings can influence our gut function. For example, stress has been shown to impair digestion and cause gut symptoms like bloating, abdominal pain, and changes in bowel habits. So, while we should definitely focus on managing our gut health, we should also focus on managing our stress levels. So, there you have it. That's the science behind the gut-brain connection and how it influences our mood. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And, as always, thanks for watching.